It was a cold, dark December night. I took my dog for a walk. It was around 10 p.m. The ground was damp, and I could see vapor with every breath that I took. A random car would pass me by from time to time. The headlights would blind me temporarily. The town I live in is an old market town in Wiltshire. I could smell the smoke coming from the open fires from the old cottages. I walked down a narrow lane, which was poorly lit, but there were lights in the distance, maybe 200 yards away. My dog began to growl and stopped walking. This walk is the same walk we would do daily, sometimes even twice a day. I encouraged him on, and again, he stopped and began to growl. I looked forward and couldn't see anybody. This lane was alongside a cemetery. Now, I'm not the superstitious type, but because my dog was acting so out of character, it was unsettling me. Although I was scared, I was curious, and we walked into the cemetery. The eerie sound of wind hitting the trees and the moonlight shining on the gravestones. We walked along the damp grass towards the main road, which was the other side of the church. I noticed, in my peripheral view, I saw a shadow, and before I could look to see who it was, I was distracted again by my dog growling, staring in the same direction. I slowly looked up to probably the scariest thing I had ever seen. Staring back at me was a terrifying man. He was soaking wet in black, beaming his eyes at me with his mouth hung open. I didn't know what to do. Before I could move, the creepy man raised his right arm as if he was pointing towards me. He took one step forward as I took one back to where he fell forward. I grabbed my dog lead and ran out the cemetery. I took one look back and I could not see the man and made it to the main road. I continued walking with a fast pace, with my eyes staring at the pavement. I would notice my dog would continuously look behind us. This was slowly turning into the scariest moment of my life. I didn't know if this man was following me or not, so I decided to take a long way home that was well lit. As I was getting closer to home, I could hear the sound of footsteps in the distance. The footsteps began to become louder as they were getting closer towards me, but I was so relieved to see it was just an old lady, like me, walking her dog late at night. The creepy thing was, I said good evening to the old lady, walking her dog, but she just stared at me as she walked past. The woman had a strange look on her face, and I had never seen her before. I just ignored it, as I wanted to get home. I had to walk through a narrow passageway. I was maybe a 5-minute walk away from getting home. As I approached, I noticed a figure stood standing at the end. I just wanted this night to end, but I wasn't going to be intimidated anymore. This town is where I live, and I wasn't going to be scared to walk around my hometown. I walked towards the man to confront him, who was patiently waiting there. My dog once again began to growl, which slowly turned into a bark. My heart was racing, and I was scared to death, only to see the figure slowly disappear into the shadows. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but the man was gone. I'm sure it was the same man who was trying to scare me in the cemetery. This was definitely the scariest night of my life, and since then, I have never walked my dog late at night. A couple of months ago, I got a new job working night shifts in a factory. My girlfriend and I shared a car, and I'd always drive to work, but my girlfriend felt nervous being at home alone at night and not being able to use the car in case of emergencies. We lived close to the train station. It was less than a 10-minute walk away from our house, and roughly a 20-minute walk to the factory from the other station. It felt good to know my girlfriend felt more comfortable at home while I worked my night shift. I would work 6 PM till 6 AM the following morning. This one night, I was working overtime in the lead up to Christmas to get some extra money. I was super tired. I finished work and got to the train station. I couldn't wait to get home and go to sleep. The train had 2 carriages, and it would always just be me getting the train at this time of the morning. The train was delayed by 10 minutes as we were waiting for the driver, and I noticed a few people get on the train. I didn't take much notice, so I just put my headphones on and listened to some music. I arrived at my station, put my headphones around my neck, and noticed the people that got on the train earlier had also got off at my stop. While I was walking home, I noticed the people behind me were in a group. There were roughly 3, maybe 4 of them. I could hear them talking to each other, but they then stopped talking, and I could hear their footsteps become faster as they were walking closer towards me. My heart rate started to increase. I turned my head, expected to be confronted by them, but they didn't even look at me. I stopped and allowed the group to walk past me. I was less than 5 minutes away from getting home. It was a freezing cold morning, and it was still dark outside. I walked past the lamppost when again I could hear the same group of people running towards me. This once again raised my heart rate, only to see the look of terror on all of their faces. I stopped one of them and said, "What are you running from?" He said, "Don't go down there," and ran away from me. This scared the hell out of me, and unfortunately, this was my only way home. I had no idea what was past this lamppost and into the darkness, but I had no other way of getting home. I was so terrified. I would count each step I took until I got to 10, then I would repeat again and again. I had this eerie emotion that I was being watched. I kept my eyes in front of me, but I had terrifying urge to look behind me, which I wish I didn't. To this day, what I saw still terrifies me. I turned my head to see a figure of a tall man, far taller than I had ever seen before in my life, with a long black jacket, smoking, staring at a house, stood at the other side of the road. I was frozen and truly terrified to my core. The man began to walk, almost in slow motion, towards the house he was staring at, and walked through the house. My heart was racing, and I thought I was just overtired and my eyes were deceiving me. The group that ran past me must have saw what I had seen, which made me realise I wasn't imagining this. I hope you enjoyed today's ghost story, and if you'd like to watch more videos, please click subscribe.